immediately came in, got rolling, having some very intellectual conversations, making certain that he was asking very smart questions. He's already intellectually curious about things going on, and I'm excited to have him be part of our Region 12 team.
I have been invited to introduce myself, and I'm glad to do so. And I should, before I do that, I should thank and introduce my wife Alyssa and my son Jonathan. You got a round of applause out of this. You didn't think you were going to get anything, John. Congratulations. So I was thinking about what I should do and how I might introduce myself to some folks that I know and some folks that I don't. And I thought that it might work for me to give answers to two simple questions. And those questions are, who am I? And what do I care about? Because both of those things manifest in our lives every day at the root of who we are, I think, and I think they do for me. So who am I? I think that my wife and son give a part of an answer to that question, but another part of the answer to that question is that I come from a family of educators. I'm a product of a family of educators, and I came by my profession here quite naturally. I have done a lot of work with young people and very little other work. So I know a lot about young people, I think, and very little about almost anything else. And one of the things that is definitely a part of the answer to the question about who I am that I posed is that I work hard to find time to play every day. And I think that that is a big part of me. And I think it transitions to the second question, what do I care about? Because one of the things that I care about is play, is fun, and the role of enthusiasm. Because I am certain, as I bet many of you are, that when we are doing something that we enjoy, the sky is the limit. When you try to teach a child something that they are not enthusiastic about, you could be the greatest and it won't work. And when you try to stop a child or anyone from learning something that they are enthusiastic about, you can't. And that, I think, that concept is at the core of what I care about, and I think it's at the core of what this school and region care about and what represents its greatest potential and capacity. So I care about fun, I care about joy, I care about finding it in our daily doings. I care about well-run institutions. When we do what we say we're going to do, everything is better for everyone. I care about our communities, the places generally in the world being connected to our neighbors and that which is local for us. And more specifically, I care about this place and our place here. And this is definitely the choir when it comes to you are the choir that I'm preaching to, because that's why you're here, of course, is because you care about well-run institutions, you care about education, you care about your local communities. And so thank you very much for your work there. One more thing that I do care about is getting childhood right and getting school right, because we all know that you only get one chance to be a child and you only get one chance at school. And getting it right doesn't mean that you always get to do what you want as a child. But it does mean that we as adults have a very, very high standard and a great responsibility to do everything that we can to shape the environment for a child to get childhood right and to get school right and to enjoy it, because that's how you get it right. So those are some ideas about me. Those are some of the things that I think I am and think I'm about. And I really look forward to working with you in this terrific place. And I do thank you for your volunteerism here on this board. Thanks.
Okay, if there, yes, Mary. I'm sorry, Mary, can you turn on the microphone so it makes it into the?
I just wanted to tell you, Mike, that a teacher that I adore, who's somebody that I wanted brought into this school, told me he was so excited about you, that you being here, that I just was so happy to hear that. But the thing that told me the most was when you were introduced by Kim Gallo the morning of the convocation, and the whole faculty cheered. That said it all to me. Welcome.
All right, if there's no objection, I'd like to have a short recess so we can have an opportunity to say hello personally and to the family, and I don't hear an objection, so we'll take a short recess. All right, we'll resume this meeting at whatever time this computer says it is. 7:26. Okay. All right. Consent agenda. There are minutes of the Board of Ed meeting of August 19th and August 26th, and also readings of several bylaws. Not the one we had issues with last time, but several others. Is there anyone that would like to take something off the consent agenda? Otherwise, all of these things the minutes will be adopted and the bylaws will be approved. Hearing none, those are adopted and approved. We'll move on to reports and recognition. The board chair's report.
You have nothing to report for the board chair.
I know,
Okay.
but I need to get my computer open because I've got a couple things here. All right. We opened. We made it. It wasn't easy. It took a lot of last minute work to get us to that point, but we opened with access to the rooms that we were promised to have, and they were in pretty good level of completion. There are still punch list items. There's still a bunch of things that have to be done to get us there. To finish up what we have here, a couple of small items that have to be done. The one thing that's really getting us, and I'll talk more about this in my AgSTEM report, is the fire alarm system. We'll have to talk some more about that. There's been some issues with that, but we'll talk about it later. But by and large, we managed to get the school open under really difficult circumstances with a major construction project, which is ongoing, although it is mostly pulled behind the fence. So you'll see there's a fence across the front of the A building, which is the new addition to the north, and that fence goes right across there, and their construction vehicles are on the other side. And we've got the part of the campus that we have here. You'll see that there's landscaping, that the lawns are up, and we're open. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. I was in the building today and I saw AgSTEM classes ongoing. And that was an exciting thing to see kids in class learning. I was in the floral lab, the plant science lab, and there were several young ladies, and Lori Travato was in there, and they were actually making plant arrangements that are going to be entered in a competition. So they literally are right off, ready to go, doing the kind of things that we expect they're going to do and succeed in. And I would point out that we now have the first trophy to put behind the windows in the AgSTEM thing from the Bridgewater parade. And so here we go.
Coming the furthest in more ways than one.
Yes, I think that's somewhat symbolic. So we're excited about that. I think we're at a point now where we have now officially opened the Agri-Science Academy at Chippewa Valley School, which is what we're calling it. And I think that's important because it is a new opportunity. It is an academy, and it's going to produce graduates who are very successful and in moving on. So we're very excited by it. And we hope that it's not the last academy that we'll found here and establish, because we really are on an upward roll, and I'm excited to be a part of it, and I know all of you are as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent's report.
All right, good evening. Happy start to the school year. I do want to thank all of you as well as our staff and parents for their flexibility as we adjusted the first day of school. I do also have to let you know that the first 2 days of school that we used as working days instead of having the students come in were incredibly productive. I actually really have to extend a great thank you to our administrators who were able to coordinate and really make it a professional development day. We had teachers who were able to collaborate. They were working on schedules. They were figuring out interventions, SRBI, looking at the data, getting ready because we have a lot of pilots that are happening for our elementary students in the math. And so the gift of time was greatly appreciated. And Mary and Greg, who attended our convocation, could also share that when this was announced to teachers, you got a roar of applause. And we did say that you recognize it as a gift of time, and to say it was appreciated is an understatement. So thank you all. Our athletes, though, did start on the first day of school what was supposed to be. So on August 29th, they did come in order to make certain they were starting their seasons. Our first meet and games that are happening today, our cross-country team competed at Northwestern. On Thursday, we have our field hockey and our boys and girls soccer team that will be at Litchfield. So they are up and underway. One of the things that we are immensely proud of is the activities and opportunities that all of our students have. And to say that we're still able to draw a large pool of students into our athletic teams is again a testament to our coaches in the program. Next month, we will begin our recognition of artists. So every other board meeting, we will have our young artists come and we will recognize their work. Their work will be displayed for that following month in our central office. If you have not been to our central office lately, it is now surrounded by our young artists and their work. And I will tell you, it's a great way to walk into work every day. But Donna Wright will be coordinating with the other art teachers to make certain that we are displaying and feeling proud about our artists. And we never want to forget, again, we are giving a total education. This is not just about academics, it's about all well-rounded students. On Thursday, September 12th, so this coming Thursday, we do have the author of Hey Kiddo who will come to speak to our students. Jared, I'm going to mess up this name, but it's Krodzejaka? Anybody who knows. He actually wrote an autobiography that our students read. And even though it's a graphic novel and it looks, kind of like a cartoon strip, it's his drawing as well as his personal story. And he is sharing his story about dealing with addiction in his family and how he had to be raised by his grandparents and some of the struggles that he went through as a child of an addict. And so to say that our children have participated in that read, the feedback that we got from the students was very positive, and to have him actually share his story, I think only bolsters our students' awareness of what's happening in some of the opioid crisis that they deal with, as well as the impact that that has on families. So we're looking forward to his visit, and we want to thank Joan Temple for her work in coordinating all of that. Smarter Balance scores were released to the public today, and I got a lovely email from a reporter who said, "Can you give us a quote? Because we're very impressed with your scores increased." So to say to you, those are the ones you're like happy to. But really, the only thing that I can say as far as our scores and the increase that was seen is that is a testament to the work of the staff. They really took a look at what the data was telling them. We're making the adjustments to their instruction. We're looking hard at the types of questions that were being asked of our students, because we also made a concerted effort not to make it about just teaching the standardized test scores, but we wanted them to also say, this is the foundation, but we also create problem solvers and critical thinkers. We never want to lose sight of who we are and our guiding beliefs. So, quite proud of that. Teresa DeBrito will present our data in its totality during the October board meeting. I will exchange the my goals that are in your packet with the goals that have the data populated in it. So that way you'll be able to see, but that will be what we post out. So again, incredibly proud of that. There were two things I needed to follow up on from our last board meetings. There was a question that was brought up regarding our REACH students and the number of students who attend our REACH program and then move into our kindergarten placements in Region 12. This past year, we had 12 out of 18 of our students from REACH went to Region 12 kindergarten, so that's 66%. The students who did not move up, we had some Rumsey families, as well as two students who were staff members' children who went to their local school districts. So I can report that 66% of our students did go to REACH, into kindergarten from REACH. The other question that was posed was regarding the number of AP credits that did result in college credit for our students. At this time, we'd have to have our students self-report that information. We do not get that for their transcripts. So once we release it, so what we will do and what we are putting together for our publication for the class of 2019 is we will publish the amount of students, the amount of credits students were eligible for. That said, we are also in conjunction putting together a survey for our graduates to find out how many of them were able to actually get credits from their AP and ECE classes, because I think that's important for us to consider as we do all of this planning. So I did want to follow up with that with the board as well. As far as personnel, we have been busy. We did have a resignation. Kim Laughlin, our school counselor at Chippewa, is resigning. She was absolutely wonderful. Anybody who worked with Kim will find somebody who is incredibly diligent, responsive, and just a lovely person. Luckily, she's not leaving us because she's sad. She had an opportunity to go to higher education, and she has her dream job at Marist. And so we wish her all the best. Additionally, Steve McCassie, our literacy tutor at Burnham School, his letter of resignation was effective August 22nd. Steve was absolutely a wonderful asset to our upper elementary classroom at Burnham. One of the integral reasons that our multi-age classrooms work so well. And so we will miss him, but we know that he's on as he follows his passion. And one that is not listed, but I would like to bring to the attention to the board, Elizabeth Horton, who is our literacy tutor at Booth Free, just turned in her resignation. She's been offered a classroom teaching position. So again, we appreciate the time that they've given us, and we will work to fill vacancies accordingly.
Yes, John.
Is everybody pretty content with the busing? I remember last year when we eliminated 2 buses, there was a, so has the scheduling been pretty smooth?
Nicole, can I turn that over to you as you've handled buses? I can tell you it is, as far as we didn't have additional reduction of buses, so that hasn't been a problem, but I'll turn it over to Nicole because that has been an integral part of her days these past few weeks.
We haven't received very many complaints with regard to bus routes. We have some families that are moving kids among the existing routes, depending on what their schedules are and where children might be better picked up at grandparents' house or an aunt's house. So we have some children shifting between bus routes, but we haven't had any challenges with the bus routes.
And to follow up, I know that it's 2 years temporary, but how is the coordination between the out-of-district ag and the drop-off at Nanawag and then the back to here and then the return trip in the evening? Has anybody missed any buses or been late because of the 84 construction or anything?
Not to my knowledge, there haven't been any problems with the ag kids that are coming to us or our ag kids that remain going out to Nanawag. Yeah,
So that's pretty smooth. Okay, good.
everything's been smooth.
Okay. Yes, Mary.
Megan, you had said something about the soccer fields, and they won't be in use until 2020. So, what are we doing now for soccer fields?
The two new soccer fields will be the ones that are not in use. So those are the ones over there. So we do still have fields that are available to us.
Okay.
But as far as the ones that will be put and have been added into our project, those we need some time for the fields to cure. But thank you for following up on that.
Julie.
Just a question. I don't know if you have a sense of this yet, but the agri-science students, do we have a sense of are they participating in after-school activities like sports? And I understand there's obviously no transportation for them, so they have to rely on parents. Does that seem to be a problem, or is that smooth, or don't we know yet?
I couldn't tell you right now. I think it's still too early to say. We are working with families where we have available bus stops. We are certainly letting them go on the necessary bus stops. We have certain forms that they can fill out so we can get them as close as possible to home. So we are working with that. I can tell you that Nicole has even some parents who've asked that their children dropped off at Burnham. Some of those other arrangements, we're certainly working with our families. We want this to be an enjoyable experience, but at this time, I cannot speak to extracurriculars yet.
Okay. Let's move on to new business and updates. We'll start with the first day of school.
At this time, I'm going to invite Ben Allen, who is our media specialist, up to present his showcase of the first day of school. I think Ben has quickly learned that he needs roller skates for this job. I think that I saw him here, there, and everywhere on the first day of school. And at some point, the children just were actually even posing for him. It was quite funny to watch. So he got some fantastic videos. So I think with great pride, Ben, I will let you showcase your work. I was gonna say, and this one actually, this showcase is the video that we had shown to our staff the first day of school for their convocation. So this was actually a showcase of everything that they had worked for last year. So you all created those moments, big, little, small, all of those things. When we look at the achievement in conjunction with the smiles on the faces, it was a really good year for Region 12. So to say that that video shows the pride and the excitement, we're looking forward to bigger and better each year. So one of those, it's a nice showcase, and we reminded the teachers that they are part of the biggest show. So
Okay, thank you. Move on to the ag science update. Megan, do you want to give us the program status?
In your board packet, I submitted the agri-science update, as we typically have gotten used to. I do want to let you know that at this time, the building sorry, I'm pulling up mine as well. We continue to have the yellow for the building project. Again, we recognize that building F was delayed. Additionally, no surprise to anybody, we had some delays that kept us from opening on time. So it's one in which we are not painfully far behind. However, there are certainly things that I know Greg is going to talk about and things that we need to have happen to clear certain parts of the building as we continue to move forward. The A building is our next one that we're looking to open. That is our power structures and mechanics building. They say that they're underway. I believe they gave us the date of the 27th of September to turn that over to us. That said, we recognize we're also having them take care of some of the things that we want to see polished up in sections B and C. So we know that all of these things are happening concurrently, but we still want to make certain we keep our timeline aggressive. All of the things that you see in yellow are the things that we're keeping our eye on. So building F, the temporary building, the Clotter, we keep calling it the Clotter Farm building, but the temporary building and when that's going to come in. Once we have the temporary building in place, we will be able to invite our horses and large animals onto site. That is something I myself am incredibly eager to have come on board. That's something that our students are looking for. To be very honest, I think if we could have had a building with no walls, they would have been okay as long as we had horses with it. So to say that I feel that urgency, we're trying to make certain we reassure, let them know when this is happening. So the moment that we have our temporary building up, we will be able to invite some of those horses. We have a number of farms that we're working with, people who are willing to lend us their animals for time periods so that way our students can learn and grow with these animals. So that's going to be something that we're going to talk about. Additionally, we just had our posters redesigned. Ben has been incredibly busy. Again, he has put together a poster that will go up in each one of our sending schools to remind our students through guidance and up in their hallways that we are an option. We want to make certain that we are already in that next line of marketing. One of the things that I also want to make certain that we are marketing is the fact STEM is very much part of the agri-science program. They are learning about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics through agriculture. At times, we have called this agri-science. We didn't drop off the name STEM because it wasn't going to happen in agri-science. It was because all of Chippewa does STEM. This is a way that hands-on STEM is done through agriculture, and we want to make certain that we have that up. And even when we came down to naming the building and having those conversations, STEM could be something that is a fad, so to say. I don't want to say that science, technology, engineering, and math are ever that. But if you notice, when we called it STEM, people said, what about STEAM? And so at some point, it's morphing something versus let's call it what it was. But I don't want to ever downplay the fact that that STEM component in our agri-science program is important. And so we will be doing a new mailer coming out. We're going to showcase where we are today, as well as the different equipment that has come in. We want people to see the drones in action. We want to make certain that people see these are all of the things that are taking this to 21st century agricultural learning. So that is something that with our next phase in marketing, it is going to be high up on our list. Additionally, Nicole and I are taking a visit to Lyman Hall on Monday in order to see some of their equipment. We want to make certain that we're looking at what other programs have offered make certain if we are not doing comparable, we're doing better. And it's also one in which the state had a question about our virtual horse, and they had directed us there. Um, our virtual horse is better, so we're just going there to tell them that. No, I'm teasing. But we want to make certain that we are looking at what are the comparisons between programs, and again, for us, never losing sight of what is currently being offered and what are we offering at Chippewa. Today, I was going to report that technology access is limited in the newly constructed areas. However, I was told that now the Wi-Fi is up, all the wires were connected today, but the smart boards are still needing to get put up. I can tell you that our teachers have been incredibly tolerant. We've made jokes about teaching like it's Flintstone age, you know, get the chalkboards out, but it is about making certain that learning is going forward. They are doing hands-on projects. We are working for that. The fire watch does continue this week. The electricians continue to attempt to tie in the new alarm system with the old alarm system, and I'm certain that Greg is going to go into much deeper detail than I will. But it is one in which we are working with the fire marshal to make certain that our building is covered while students and staff are in the building. Again, we recognize safety first. We did do a walkthrough of the building. We're coordinating our interim punch list. We want to make certain that we are not compromising quality for speed. So this is a time in which they've put things together, and now we've gone in and feel really bad and say, oh, but that's cockeyed. Can you fix that a little bit? So we're just, at this point, want to make certain that we're attending to the details. We want to make certain that we are delivering, again, what was promised. So I also have to remind everybody, our building construction continues. Just because we opened the doors didn't mean that the building was entirely finished. We are expecting them to continue heavy building, especially in Building F, which is off-site, well, not off-site, in the back of the Chippewa main building. That is scheduled to get turned over to us at the end of this year. So I know people want to come up and just see that everything is all done and all trucks have moved off our premises. That is not the case. However, I do have to say they continue to work very well, being considerate of our students and our staff for their learning purposes. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Greg.
All right. We most importantly, we did receive a temporary certificate of occupancy for the B building, which is the interior renovations to the north for AgSTEM, and the C building, which is the science lab renovation, that we received on the 29th. You know, the biggest problem we've had, and the biggest impediment has been material delays. Delays of material to contractors to install. We had some delays on carpet, and that was something I did not want to open this building without all of the surfaces having a floor. We had the provider of, there are certain floors in the science labs and in certain hallways and in AgSTEM, there are some floors of various types. Some floors are carpet, just like the carpet you see in the mall, for just classrooms, but the laboratory environments are either a rubber floor, squares, or they're a rolled rubber product. And the rolled rubber product came in. The reptile and amphibian room and the small animal rooms have those. By the way, there is an animal in place. We do have some type of a small furry animal in place. So we you know, we're not. Yes, basically that's what it is. But we were, you know, so we have our first animal in the building, but those rooms have their permanent floor and they're fine. But some of these labs that needed the rubber squares were supposed to have come in quite a while ago, and they've been delayed and delayed and delayed. And finally, we got word they would be in on the 13th, and we're not 100% certain that they're going to be in on Friday because we won't know until we get a ship order that says they're on their way. But I insisted we were not opening without floors with something on them. We were going to have concrete floors, and as a result, the installer had carpet tiles that were left over. They're all the same kind of nice gray color, and they're installed in all those locations. So we were able to get those. We were able to get the carpet done in the hall, and that required an extreme effort because right in the middle of the hall that connects AgSTEM to the main building, there was a jumble of wires there, and those had to be connected to connect existing building stuff to the new power operation coming in. Those were all connected. That was put in a concrete, specially made concrete box on the floor, which has been covered and insulated and covered and everything, and that's now done. And that allowed us to complete the carpeting in the hall. And all of that was completed. Probably if we rushed, pushed, and yelled and screamed, we could have opened on Thursday, but we felt that we really wanted to open under, with everything in place and not rushing it. And those extra 4 days, tremendous amount of work was done in that period of time, and that allowed us to open. And also, we wanted it to look a little bit more finished. We didn't want it to look like it was still under construction in the parts we had taken over, and they do look finished. So, anyone would like a personal tour, let me know. I'm here just about every day anyway, so we'll get you in. But no, that's where we are now. One of the persistent problems we've had, and this is causing us some agita, is the fire alarm system. The existing building has a fire alarm system. That's a system that both sounds an alarm and also notifies the fire department in Washington that we have a situation here. That system is fine. It's up and running and it's good. When they attempted to connect the new system into it, however, they kept running into multiple errors. They would get it all set and work, and then they would have errors on devices. And they have twice now chased down every device in the school. Some of them had water in them, which resulted in roof leaks that resulted from work being done on the roof, installing HVAC units, the rooftop units. So some water apparently got into some of them, and they had to be replaced and changed out. There was a problem in our situation that involved the board, the main board, which was, because it kept needing a new home, it kept getting pushed out of locations. It was finally pushed into a building, and that was not really 100% complete. And so we had some issues with water infiltration there, or dampness or something else. We're not sure whether that really is the issue, but they're thinking that might be the issue. The net effect is they have not been able to get approval of the fire alarm system for building the portion of the buildings noted as B and C. And as a result of that, we have had to have a continuous fire watch. We've had literally firemen from Washington, or volunteers or retired firemen in the building from 7 in the morning until 6 at night. And they have been walking around and making sure there are no problems or issues or fires or anything else. So the building is safe. And they are continuing to press that issue to try to find what they can find to get that system up and running. We had really hoped that it would have been last weekend that they would have gotten it up and running. And they had a test where they had the whole system working perfectly. And then they had to swap out a component. They plugged in the new component and everything went haywire. So it's been a frustrating experience for them. It's been a frustrating experience for us. We're maybe bringing in the design team and the installation team of the company that actually, Siemens, that actually designed it. We're looking at maybe getting some assistance from them. And we're going to try to get this thing online. Here's what happens when you don't have a fire alarm signed off. You cannot turn on any gas. So there is no gas in the science labs as a result. In addition, the food science lab, which is the absolutely wonderful kitchen at that end of the building, has gas-fired hot water and gas ranges. The gas ranges can't go on. The gas-fired hot water can't go on because there's no hot water. The health department can't approve the kitchen. There's a fire suppression system over the four burner ranges there, and that system can't go on until we have that. So we've got some elements that need to go on, and that's why we are pressing, and I have every confidence that we will get that system up and running shortly. But until that's the case, that's where we are with it. It's a little bit of a setback we had not anticipated, but the company that has been installing this has been here on the weekends. They have been here just about 6 or 7 days a week to try to get this done, and it's just been a great series of frustrations for us on that point. But I'm confident that we'll see some progress this week. They're installing a new board. They are replacing the board that had a little bit of corrosion in it. We think maybe some water did get into it. And they've installed new cards, and they've swapped out a bunch of devices. And we're hoping when they get all of that up and running that the system will come on fully. And then once it's on, it's on. It doesn't go out again once it finally everything clicks. There are always inevitable problems when you take an old system and a new system and combine them, but this has been above the inevitable problems. This seems to be just really a slog. But we're almost there, and I think we'll be in relatively good shape shortly. There are AgSTEM classes ongoing in the AgSTEM facility. So we are, I was here today and witnessed at least 3 classes at the time I was here were ongoing. So that's working. I will say that A building is the next we hope to bring online. That building is suffering again from a material issue. We are still waiting for glass for the clustery windows that are up at the top of the building. And there's also one whole wall that's glass to the immediate left of the door that enters into the pool area, or immediate right rather of that door. And that area, we're still waiting for that glass to come in. That's a little bit of a delay. We hope to have it within the next 2 days, but it's one of those things where we're fighting these material delays. It's not that they don't have. It's not that the world ran out of sand and they can't make any glass. Glass made of sand. What it is that it's the frames around it are metal frames, and that is a product they don't just start with the aluminum. They have painted aluminum. It's literally done, and so they have to get that material. And if they have a shortage of it, or they have something that needs to be changed or fixed, sometimes it delays it. So that's really what the delay is there, and we hope to be through that delay shortly. They're expecting that material, I think, this week. So that hopefully they'll be able to, by this week or early next, start the installation of that glass, which would close that building in. Otherwise, that building is closed in. There are also overhead doors, and they should be here on Friday. So we expect those overhead doors to be installed next week. And then that building will at least be closed in. The interior of it requires a lot less finish work because all of the mechanical, all of the wood shop, the metal shop, the small engine shop, all of those do not have sheetrock walls or anything like that. It's the block that gets painted. The ceiling and all of the mechanicals are left exposed in those spaces. So there's a lot less finish work that has to go on there. That building is designed to be delivered on the 27th of September, with our moving in and starting work in there, are actually being in the space with classes on the 10th of October. And the reason for that is there's a lot of furniture, fixtures, and equipment that have to be installed in those spaces. I have a suspicion that those dates may slide a little bit if that glass does not arrive on time. So that's sort of where we are with that building. As far as the site work goes, you can see that the front of the school has had, except for one area, has had grass planted. That one area is receiving sod, and it should get it shortly. You can see that the parking lots are in. The one thing that's missing in the front parking lot is from the area where you enter the school building all the way down to the far northern end of the parking lot toward the trailers for O&G. In the space between the bus area and the parking lot, there is designed to be a split rail fence in there and decorative stone at the bottom of the fence. And that fencing should be arriving shortly, and that will be installed, and then that area will be completed. If you notice, there was a big muddy area on the far end of the parking lot where it's down at the lowest grade. What happened is there was a lot of dirt on the parking lot, and we had that horrific rainfall. And what it did is it put it all in that area, and it filled up the sacks that are in all the catch basins, collecting silt so it doesn't get into the brook. And those filled up, and so it literally there was dirt all over the road. That's being fixed, and so we don't need to worry about that. Sorry about that, but these are the inevitable things that happen when you have a rainstorm as powerful as that one. The good news is it washed the parking lot. It was great. I mean, you couldn't have done it by hand any better than that rainstorm did. So in any event, that's where that is. Building F is scheduled to be delivered to us. I hope it's by the end of December and not on the 40th day of December. But it will be done in 2019 if we have to create a 40-day month. But that's moving along. It's now they're tuning up that building. Once the steel was up, it's only held by a few bolts, and they have to go in and square it and plumb it up so that everything's connected properly. And then they will start the roof hopefully next week. Maybe the end of this week, but more likely the beginning of next week, and then the siding will go on after the roof, and that building will be closed in, and they'll start doing the interior. Today we were given 6 different choices of material for the indoor riding ring and some of the other areas where the animals will be in the outdoor riding ring. And so we're having some assistance in picking through that material from someone that knows more about it than us in order to be able to select the right material, and then we'll be moving on that. There will be a temporary building brought in to allow us to have horses on the property for the program. That temporary building is almost ready to be delivered, with the exception of we have no place to put it, because right now there is something about the size of Mount Everest that consists of topsoil from this site sitting where that field is. That topsoil will start to be removed shortly. They've been screening it. A good bit of it is going on to the new soccer field that's being built up on in the far corner, the northwest corner of the property, and that so that dirt will leave there shortly. And it's an enormous amount of dirt, but at 23 yards a truck, it goes relatively quickly. So we should shortly have that in operation. The site work continues around the school now. They're going to be starting sidewalks shortly in the rear toward the area next to the plant sales, and those sidewalks and parking areas should go in fairly quickly. They'll then be commencing the road that will ring the property and allow fire access to all parts of the property in the rear. And once that's in, they will be, I believe, bringing in the soils, which are being brought from off-site for the demonstration farming areas. Those will be brought in as off-site agricultural soils that are specifically designed to work well with that. And then you'll see the development go along that side of the building. If you were in the back of the building tonight, you would see that the metal panel that goes right under the roof and finishes off the sides of the building is in place in all the areas they could put it before a little bit of extra masonry work is done. And they're going to start moving around, I believe, starting tomorrow to the front of the building. So all of those areas that look unfinished above the entrance to AgStem will have that metal panel. The roof will be tied in, and those areas will get a finished look to them. Today they were swapping in some windows. They had installed temporary windows on that north side of the building in order to get the temporary certificate of occupancy. Then the windows that are all openable and you can open them all came in, and those have now been installed. So they're now all in place. So that's pretty much where we are. We expect to see trees start coming on the site to be installed shortly. Some of the areas that are not grassed are not grassed because there are so many trees going in those areas. They didn't want to grass them until they had dug the holes and put the trees in. Otherwise, the grass would be all garbage and have to be torn up and replaced. So you're going to see more and more of that every time you come up to the school building. You'll see it progress and progress fairly fast. Now we are about 60% complete with the project. And the biggest areas that remain to be complete are the site work, for trees and whatnot that was not scheduled to occur until the fall anyway, and also Building F and Building A. And those are the parts that remain to be completed, and a little bit around the greenhouse. And the greenhouse itself has work going on over the next couple of weeks that we'll try to bring that to a conclusion to finish that so we have access to it in October. And that is where we are. Any questions? Mike?
Great. Just a couple small questions. That danger construction area sign over there, is there still work going on in the labs? Because I thought you said they're done.
The science labs in the back are done. The one that remains is what used to be our chemistry lab, which they did not do the demolition on until we closed the school year this past year. So that's all under construction. Everything behind that wall is under construction. And then you go across there, and there's another wall that separates it from the areas that we're actually using. We have a working chemistry lab with a fume hood, gas. Well, when we have gas. Well, it'll soon have gas, but at least it's got the gas jets and water. It has functioning water. So we do have an almost working chemistry lab, and we have the other labs that we need. So
that is scheduled to be completed when?
I believe that's in December.
December also?
Okay. Yeah, it's also in December. Probably, hopefully, the early part of December.
Okay.
I'm told that it may be a little bit ahead of schedule right now, but let's cross our fingers and hope that remains the truth.
Okay. The side entrance, which is where the students normally would be coming in, I know right now they're coming in the main entrance. Is when is it scheduled to open up as a side entrance?
We're actually having a conversation. Safety-wise, it's actually best to have all of the students routed into a single entrance. So we're having a conversation with our SRO in order to make the decision if we do eventually open up that. Otherwise, right now, the way that the students are traveling would remain consistent throughout.
Yeah, I know that the students, that will be if you make that decision, and you may have to, it sounds like from a safety perspective, that'll make for very unhappy juniors and seniors who may have to, in inclement weather and maybe unfinished landscaping, kind of make their way through all of that to get into the main building.
Good news is they've kind of been trained on that, and actually it's better than it was last year. And so again, one of those where we weigh out every time with inconvenience to safety, and sadly safety is going to win every time. But it is one, just please note, the conversation has started on what's going to happen with that. because we don't want to open it and then make a decision to that, because that's when we'd really upset the number of students because we've interrupted their routines.
So would you also be having that main entrance be the single entrance for after school activities, for example? So all athletes will not be able to use the side exit or entrance.
Currently, right now, what we have is we utilize the main entrance. As far as egress is going out,
Right.
there's plenty of things to go outwards. Getting into the building, whether or not they're with their coach, and having one of the things that we have taken a strong stance against is no propping doors. And so, as far as it shouldn't be that the back doors are left unlocked during those times,
Yeah.
because at that point we've compromised safety of our students.
Sure.
I don't know that if we don't allow entry through that door now, that's necessarily a permanent decision. If in the future, once we have a full Ag STEM program, we've got people down there every day, as long as right now it's a safety issue, and we are listening to our safety advisors and our resource officer.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I know that in terms of what you built into the design for the side entrance was for it to still continue to be used. And so I'd hate to know that we spent quite a bit of money making it possible to use it and then decide at the last minute that we're not.
Well, one thing that entry was designed for, it was also designed for parents to come in through that entry and other people. And it is designed so that when those people and anyone else that tries to enter through that area or comes to that area would find themselves in a locked lobby. And only when they are buzzed through are they allowed into the office, and then through the office they enter the building through a different door. And that's the way that is designed down there. So it's there's some ability to control entry, but the difficulty becomes when you have students coming in at various times in large numbers through that area. It becomes very difficult to control, and it would require you to have a separate security apparatus down there to control entry to the building to make sure only students were coming in, or at least you knew who was coming in. And that's where I think right now we have not quite got that piece to the point where we feel confident that we should not do anything other than what we're doing, which is allowing the front entryway to be the entryway. I mean, certainly we want to look at that, but I'm not right now. We've got to stick with our plan. And I know some people are going to be disappointed, but it's unfortunate because it's a convenient entrance to be dropped off at and enter the building. But safety has to come first.
Parent drop-off is around that circle. There's a sidewalk students can take that takes them all the way through. So actually, I have to say, there was a conversation we were having. It's much quieter during drop-off times because there is a smooth traffic circle, whereas before it was a little bit stunted during our construction last year. So now it's a smooth. They go off to the side, they drop off in the circle. Students walk over, they walk to the main entrance. So buses are dropped off right in front of the school. So right now we do keep our cars and buses separate. That will be something that we always maintain. But everybody still enters in through that main entrance.
Jen.
So just so I'm clear, so even though the parent drop off is still on the side, then we did the circle, they're still going to have to walk to the front. Okay. I'm kind of on the same page as Mike, where I feel like obviously safety would never be not a concern. I mean, that's number one always. But I do also think that if that was the case, then we wouldn't have even had the door put up at all. So, I mean, I would imagine that safety was considered when that part of the building was being done. So I would like to be able to see if there was a way to still keep it as safe as possible, but also utilize what we've just created, because I just think it seems the flow of it. I guess for me, the thing that I would like to be thoughtful and mindful of is that moving into a new building, in addition, having a new program in our school, but also being thoughtful about maintaining the same culture. And I know that that's hard to do, but I just mean in terms of a lot of changes going on in the school, but it's still wanting to feel somewhat familiar, especially for those students that are still here. So obviously change happens and we're always resistant of it, but I would like to be able to see some flexibility in trying to maintain some routines that we used to have moving forward. Whether that be, and there's a lot of different examples, but I just think we need to keep that in mind, I think, so that the students don't feel that everything is changing and then they get a little frustrated and listen, I'm not one for coddling and my kids by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think it's important to have some normalcy and some familiarity as we're moving forward.
John,
Kind of fell asleep at the switch. Could I back up to the program status as far as the cohort? And again, I realize that we're in the fledgling stages. Is it too late to enroll, to take off of the wait list?
It's not. And that's actually, as you'll notice, to back everybody up to the display, we did have a student who did drop from New Milford. They actually, the moment we delayed school, they never entered into Chappaq. They dropped out. And sadly, it's the perception that we weren't ready to open became a factor in this person making the decision not to come to Chappaq. So now it is our opportunity. There's still a wait list in New Milford. We can certainly go into it. I do think it is harder to get people to come once they've started their freshman year somewhere else. However, that's not going to stop us from making that phone call, extending the invitation, and seeing if they would, because at this time there is availability for a seat.
Well, my only concern is we started with 52 accepted, and somehow over 6-7 months, that number fell to 20 out of district to well, combined 46, but out of district to 28. And I'm just thinking, you know, obviously Newtown doesn't have a wait list, but I think we have to really concentrate our efforts on probably 3 towns: Newtown, Brookfield, and New Fairfield. And because I realize that New Milford and Danbury are pretty delicate as far as a cap at the present. But and we also have to keep in mind that attrition over the 4 years, as the students matriculate into the next grades, it could be as high as 20%. So it's kind of, you know, 6 students, you know, in reality is $66,000. And I think we really have to concentrate our efforts on some of the schools that probably have the capability of sending more.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think that there's opportunity. We exhausted the wait list in some of our towns. New Fairfield didn't have one. So that also goes to say, did we market to the extent we should have in those towns? And to also say, going into next year, now that we will have, we have room if we want to accept some 10th graders next year who didn't get in. So it's hopefully that our word of mouth and things that go better, once we can showcase instead of just marketing, I think is a big push for us. But to say to you, you're absolutely right, John. We can't lose sight of our opportunities that right now are lost. And every seat that is not filled is a lost opportunity for us. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So, with the delays of school starting and the schools not being as finished as some people maybe thought that they would be at this point, I mean, I know we always try to be positive, but do you think that's going to hurt us as we try to go forward and recruit for next year? Because this is the time now that we're supposed to be recruiting. Do you think that will hurt us because they're going to say you're recruiting for a program that's not even finished yet, or the building isn't finished yet? I'm just curious how you're feeling about that.
I'm feeling, I have to say, I think once we get animals on site, I think once I can have pictures with our students, and whether or not it's that they've gone on field trips and we're taking pictures of them there, I think the moment that it's familiarized and it's something where New Milford students see other New Milford students and Newtown students see other Newtown students, I think that's a very definite help to us. But I'm going to say that this year is still one where we're still trying to tell people what our program will be. Okay. We're not fully into let me just have you come to the school. But at this point, I do have the drones in house, in which when they come to our exploratory night, we have things that they can play with. They can
When
go
is
to
that?
those. Those are forthcoming. I will be able to let you
Okay.
know the dates coming up.
Okay.
But to say to you, this is not something we can rest on our laurels. We're
Right.
nowhere close to that. We're
Right.
still very much having to say, here's what we can do, here's what we are doing, and this is what the development looks like. This is also one of the reasons we are going to be doing a mailer coming up. And the mailer is not just going to go to our Region 12 families, because one, we do want to reassure our taxpayers this is what's happening, but also getting that out into our other surrounding towns and working closely to do such.
Good. Thank you.
Mary first, and then Jen.
See if I get this thing to- Greg, you had talked about having a hallway put in so that the workers don't come, that aren't in with our students. Well, I've mentioned that to many people, and they're like, "Oh, really? That's such a great idea." So thank you for thinking of that and making sure that that happened, because the parents want to know that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have had to have some workers in the school on this fire alarm issue because they've had to go around from classroom to classroom, and they're picking the classrooms that aren't in use when they have to spend 15 or 20 minutes in a room. So, but by and large, most of the interior work on the building is on the science labs, and those are restricted. It's an entirely separate entrance, and in fact, there is a partition that's been put in the hallway to partition it off from the student areas, and there are no doors in the partition. So there's no break through that partition, and they have to come in a separate entrance. We've also done the same thing at Building A. In Building A, they're actually in there. The connection between this building has doors that are emergency egress for us only. And there's no interplay back and forth into the building, except for the people that are authorized to come into the building because they need access to an electrical panel or something like that. We've authorized them to do that. So we are trying to keep them separate from the students, and we're doing I think a pretty good job, except for this fire alarm thing that's had a couple of guys wandering around.
The parents appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you. Jen.
So just, I was thinking about John's question, and I'm just curious, hypothetically speaking, if an ag student or agri-science student from one of our sending towns decided to want to join our program a month into school, could they? So there's no cutoff or deadline for students.
Agri-science is based on the seats that we have available to those towns, so it is town specific. So different than, say, a tuition in which is a private entity. This is one in which it's a public, so it's an LEA placement. So we have the seats.
Okay.
Yes, Lisa.
Do those schools know that?
They've committed to seats for this year.
Oh, no, but I'm saying like the people who are waitlisted.
That's where we reach out to them individually.
Oh, you
So-
okay? Because I'm just wondering, maybe they've no, not the waitlisted. Did you say apply to the program, or did you? So
Oh,
not.
no, they would have had to apply.
Oh.
So they would have to sit on a wait list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sure. Yes.
Is there another New Milford student on the wait list?
We have a wait list in New Milford.
So, but they couldn't say, "Oh, I'd like to come." No.
We call up based on where they fall in the wait list. So
Right.
they got a letter from us if they did not make the program, if they fell into the wait list,
Yeah.
so they met the criteria.
Mhm.
And at this time, if a seat becomes available,
Right.
we would reach out to you, and that's what.
Right. Okay.
Mike.
Since we're talking about marketing, I'm just wondering what your thoughts are for our first parent night, which I assume is going to be coming up fairly soon. That'll be the opportunity for where the bulk of the parents are going to see all the wonderful changes that we've made, with an understanding that more to come. And the first opportunity for our agri-science parents to be at Chippewa, other than maybe some initial visits from some of the parents. Anything special planned for them?
I can't speak to that, but we can certainly have Lori, Peter, and Rachel come and speak to us about some of the things they have. I can tell you what has been planned is us going out to the schools. So at this point, we're going to the people. I think one of the things that I'd really like to make certain is our house is nice and ordered before we have company over. So to say I'd like to give that a little bit more time, but once we do, I certainly could have them come and present to us of what that's going to look like.
I'd love that first showcase to be a strong one.
All right. Nicole, do you want to take us through the financial status?
Sure. The building committee, just a few hours ago at their meeting today, approved O&G's payment application 13, which is in the amount of $2.7 million, and it brings us for completed work through July 31st. We are expecting their payment application 14 in the next week, which will take us for completed work through August 31st. We had a discussion about what is left in our contingency. We have about $600,000 left in our contingency to get us through change orders over the next 4 months while we finish the project.
Okay. John,
Is that our contingency or O&G's contingency?
It's O&G's contingency.
No.
but it's money that flows to us if they don't spend it. And so when our contingency runs
Ours
out,
is-
they use it to fund our things that we have to take from our contingency. So that's
But ours is pretty low.
ours is pretty low, yeah. So we're basically at about a $600,000 under budget at this point by virtue of the contingency. And with any luck, there's 4 months left to this project. So let's hope we don't have to have more than 31 days in December. Okay. Well, enrollment update.
All right, you should all have received a copy of the enrollment update that we have. A special thank you, Nancy Barron and our business department, who keeps us all organized as far as what our total enrollment is, as well as understanding our tuition non-resident and as well as our staff sending members. So I'm proud to say we have 700. I don't know why that really excites me, but I just wanted to break past that 600 mark. So we have 700 students who have joined us this year. Of those 700 students, 109 of those students are not residents of Bridgewater, Roxbury, and Washington. So to say that we, again, want to make certain that we showcase that is something to be proud of. These are people who have sought us out, are excited about what we have to offer here at our schools. So I just wanted to open up the floor if there's any questions regarding our enrollment as it's presented.
Julie.
Thanks. So is it possible, maybe just at the bottom of this chart, to say number of agri-science students? Because that's the question we get asked the most in our communities, and it's not always easy. You have to kind of add and subtract and stuff, unless I'm missing
I was going to say
something.
there is a column if you look under Chippewa. It says tuition, non-resident staff, Sherman, other agri-sending
Okay.
in total.
But
So if
that's
you
just
pull
the
that
number
down-
coming in from other towns, right? The 27?
That is correct. So
Okay.
it does not include our Chippewa students.
Okay, well, I don't want to tell people we only have 27 students, so no, I'm just saying it would be great if we just
I hear what
had a
you're saying.
number
Now.
that's-
Yes, if
you know what I'm
we
saying?
can highlight how many of them, and maybe have I understand the column question that you have for us right now. Yes, we can.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions related to our enrollment status? And of course, the key enrollment date by which everything gets fixed with the state is on October 1. So that's the date we look to see where our enrollment is on October 1. Okay. we'll move on to action items. The first is to consider and approve the superintendent's goals for 2019-2020. You've had an opportunity to hear the superintendent present these. You've had an opportunity to look at them. Does anyone have any questions or issues? And if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's goals for 2019-2020 as presented. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Chairman votes aye. Unanimously approved. I don't know what we say at this point. Stand and deliver? I mean,
Okay. Go to it.
all right. Well, we'll move on then to bylaw 9330. This is the one that gave us some concerns last time. This is here for a second reading and discussion. I'll give you all a chance to call it up. 9330. 9330. This is board school district records.
During our first conversation, there was concern about a statement regarding when a student turns 18 years old. I do want to just note that that is within the policy recommendations on how that would happen, because as the student turns of age, it is their records, and having to have that parental getting to have consent so that way parents can share those records is something that is spelled out within the policy. Additionally, I know that there was concern about some of the wordiness that potentially could create confusion. However, I think it is important that we are defining the roles and rights, especially given the concerns with privacy. We need to be very aware, and this is one that the state has asked, is making certain we spell out when there is a family member who is incarcerated and making certain we recognize that they do have rights. We do have a number of families that have split families, and recognizing the rights to educational records are equal for both parents unless so court ordered. So spelling out that within the policy, sorry, I'll keep calling it a policy, within the bylaw is just to highlight what is currently already in legislation.
Yeah, I think the question I had was why this was a bylaw, it's not just simply a policy. And
So sorry. And we do have it, policy 5125, which is about student records, does indicate, and I did make certain that there's alignment between those two. But the fact of the matter is that I am responsible for the records within.
yeah, Mike,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 9330 as amended.
approve for a second reading. Is that what you're?
Yeah. Sorry.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right. We'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? The chairman is going to vote nay because the chairman believes this is not a proper bylaw. It is a proper policy, but I have issues concerning it being a bylaw, so I'm going to vote nay. Abstaining? None abstaining. It's 10-1-0. Oh, Pete didn't vote? Pete, do you care to vote? Oh, did you vote aye? He votes aye, so it's 10-1-0. Okay. If there's nothing else to come before the meeting, at this point, I would, and no one has any objection, I declare the meeting adjourned by consent at 8:37 p.m. Thank you all so much. And we made it out before 9 o'clock.